Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a survivor of both the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings during World War II. Although at least 160 people are known to have been affected by both bombings, he is the only person to have been officially recognized by the government of Japan as surviving both explosions. A resident of Nagasaki, Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on business for his employer Mitsubishi Heavy Industries when the city was bombed at 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945. He returned to Nagasaki the following day, and despite his wounds, he returned to work on August 9, the day of the second atomic bombing. That morning he was telling his supervisor how one bomb had destroyed the city, to which his supervisor told him that he was crazy, and at that moment the Nagasaki bomb detonated. In 1957, he was recognized as a hibakusha of the Nagasaki bombing, but it was not until March 24, 2009, that the government of Japan officially recognized his presence in Hiroshima 3 days earlier. He died of stomach cancer on January 4, 2010, at the age of 93. Early life: Yamaguchi was born on March 16, 1916. He joined Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in the 1930s and worked as a draftsman designing oil tankers. Second World War: Yamaguchi never thought Japan should start a war. He continued his work with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, but soon Japanese industry began to suffer heavily as resources became scarce and tankers were sunk. As the war ground on, he was so despondent over the state of the country that he considered killing his family with an overdose of sleeping pills in the event that Japan lost. Hiroshima bombing. Yamaguchi lived and worked in Nagasaki, but in the summer of 1945 he was in Hiroshima for a 3-month-long business trip. On August 6 he was preparing to leave the city with 2 colleagues, Akira Iwanaga and Kuniyoshi Sato, and was on his way to the station when he realized he had forgotten his hanko, and returned to his workplace to get it. At 8:15 a.m., he was walking towards the docks when the American bomber Enola Gay dropped the Little Boy atomic bomb near the center of the city, only 3 kilometers away. Yamaguchi recalls seeing the bomber and 2 small parachutes, before there was a great flash in the sky, and I was blown over. The explosion ruptured his eardrums, blinded him temporarily, and left him with serious burns over the left side of the top half of his body. After recovering, he crawled to a shelter, and having rested, he set out to find his colleagues. They had also survived and together they spent the night in an air raid shelter before returning to Nagasaki the following day. In Nagasaki, he received treatment for his wounds, and despite being heavily bandaged, he reported for work on August 9. Nagasaki bombing. At 11 a.m. on August 9, Yamaguchi was describing the blast in Hiroshima to his supervisor, when the American bomber Boxcar dropped the Fat Man atomic bomb over the city. His workplace again put him 3 kilometers from ground zero, but this time he was unhurt by the explosion. However, he was unable to replace his now ruined bandages, and he suffered from a high fever for over a week. Later life: in the early 1950s he and his wife, who had also been exposed to the atomic bomb blast in Nagasaki, had 2 daughters. When the war ended, Yamaguchi worked as a translator for the occupying American Marines and then became a schoolmaster. He later returned to work for Mitsubishi designing oil tankers. When the Japanese government officially recognized atomic bombing survivors as hibakusha in 1957, Yamaguchi's identification stated only that he had been present at Nagasaki. He was content with this, satisfied that he was relatively healthy, and put the experiences behind him. As he grew older, his opinions about the use of atomic weapons began to change. In his 80s, he wrote a book about his experiences and was invited to take part in a 2006 documentary about 165 AA bomb survivors called Twice Survived, the W atomic bombed of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was screened at the United Nations. At the screening, he pleaded for the abolition of atomic weapons. Yamaguchi became a vocal proponent of nuclear disarmament. He told an interviewer, "The reason that I hate the atomic bomb is because of what it does to the dignity of human beings." Speaking through his daughter during a telephone interview, he said, "I can't understand why the world cannot understand the agony of the nuclear bombs. How can they keep developing these weapons? On December 22, 2009, Canadian movie director James Cameron and author Charles Pellegrino met Yamaguchi while he was in a hospital in Nagasaki, and discussed the idea of making a film about nuclear weapons. I think it's Cameron's and Pellegrino's destiny to make a film about nuclear weapons, Yamaguchi said. Recognition by government. At first, Yamaguchi did not feel the need to draw attention to his double survivor status. However, in later life he began to consider his survival as destiny, so in January 2009, he applied for double recognition. This was accepted by the Japanese government in March 2009, making Yamaguchi the only person officially recognized as a survivor of both bombings. Speaking of the recognition, he said, "My double radiation exposure is now an official government record. It can tell the younger generation the horrifying history of the atomic bombings even after I die." Health. Yamaguchi lost hearing in his left ear as a result of the Hiroshima explosion. He also went bald temporarily, and his daughter recalls that he was constantly swathed in bandages until she reached the age of 12. Despite this, Yamaguchi went on to lead a healthy life. Late in his life, he began to suffer from radiation-related ailments, including cataracts and acute leukemia. His wife also suffered radiation poisoning from black rain after the Nagasaki explosion and died in 2010 of kidney and liver cancer after a lifetime of illness. All three of their children reported suffering from health problems likely connected with their parents' exposures. Death. In 2009, Yamaguchi learned that he was dying of stomach cancer. He died on January 4, 2010 in Nagasaki at the age of 93. BBC controversy. On December 17, 2010, the BBC featured Yamaguchi in its comedy program QI, referring to him as the unluckiest man in the world. Stephen Ferry, the host of QI, and celebrity guests drew laughter from the audience in a segment that included examples of black humor, such as asking if the bomb had landed on him and bounced off. A clip from the episode was uploaded by the BBC after the show, but was later deleted. A BBC spokesperson told Kyodo News that we instructed our crew to delete the file since we have already issued a statement that the content was not appropriate. The episode triggered criticism in Japan. Toshiko Yamasaki, Yamaguchi's daughter, appeared on NHK's National Evening News and said, "I cannot forgive the atomic bomb experience being laughed at in Britain, which has nuclear weapons of its own. I think this showed that the horror of atomic bomb is not well enough understood in the world. I feel sad rather than angry." The Embassy of Japan in London wrote to the BBC protesting that the program insulted the deceased victims of the atomic bomb. It was reported that Piers Fletcher, a producer of the program, responded to complaints with "We greatly regret it when we cause offence, and it is apparent to me that I underestimated the potential sensitivity of this issue to Japanese viewers." On January 22, 2011, the BBC and Talkback Thames jointly issued a statement. In addition to the joint statement, the BBC delivered a letter from Mark Thompson, Director General of the BBC, to the Japanese Embassy. See also, Effects of nuclear explosions on human health. Jacob Bezer, the only member of the strike crews for both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Notes. References. External links. Nagasaki University Peace Studies Archives, June 2011. Yamasaki, Toshiko and Harada, Kosuza Living with the AA Bomb Survivor, and Yamaguchi, Tsutomu AA Bomb Victim, My Life Beneath the Atomic Clouds 2007.